Can you hear me, Roberta?
Yes, I can, Dan.
Thank you. Looks like we have everyone. Jennifer, are we waiting for anybody else?
Chair Galvin, I believe we have everyone present.
Very good. Then I will go ahead and call the meeting of the Board of Public Utilities for the City of Santa Rosa to order. If we may have a roll call, please, Secretary Atha.
Yes, Chairman Galvin.
Here.
Vice Chair Arnone.
Here.
Board Member Badenfort. Board Member Grable.
Here.
Board Member Mullen.
Here.
Board Member Watts.
Here.
Board Member Wright.
Here.
Great. Good afternoon, everyone. A reminder to please put away your cell phones and personal computers and to mute your phones or your microphones when you're not speaking. Next item is a statement of abstention by board members. Do we have any? Hearing none. We have no study session. The minutes for the November 5th, 2020 meeting will be approved and entered. And we will move to our first staff briefing, 5.1. Director Burke.
Thank you, Chair Galvin and members of the board. The first staff briefing is a water supply update, and Deputy Director Water Resources, Peter Martin, will be making the presentation.
Thank you, Director Burke. Good afternoon.
Excuse me just one second, Peter. I'm sorry. I neglected to see if there was any public comments on the approval of the minutes. So if there are any public comments, please, via Zoom, please raise your hand. If not, if by phone, please dial *9. Secretary Atha, do we have anyone?
We do not.
Okay, thank you. My apologies. Now those minutes will be approved and entered. Sorry, Deputy Director Martin, go right ahead.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you. Good afternoon, Chair Galvin and members of the board. Just excited to kind of give you a water supply update as we're kind of entering into a new water year. Next slide, please. So it's official. This was the third driest water year on record for 2019 and 2020. It was historically dry. And that's on 126 years of record keeping for our region. So rainfall in the region was about 48% of average. And to kind of put it in perspective, this is still much higher than the statewide drought that occurred in the 1970s, which lasted 2 years. In 1975 and 76 rainfall season, Ukiah received only 18 inches of rain. And to follow that, in 76, 77, things got even worse, and we saw the record low of 14 inches. This time frame is kind of often used as sort of the stress test for water supplies. But again, just as it often happens in California, just when things looked kind of especially grim, the upper watershed rebounded, sending about 54 inches of rain in the 1977-78 time frame. So obviously, rainfall in California is just kind of back and forth, depending upon how things are going, I guess, as far as drought. So next slide, please. So this graphic here from Sonoma Water shows water supplies in Lake Mendocino in comparison to the last 5 years, with that black line representing where we are in the new water year. At this time, Sonoma's water supplies in Lake Mendocino are about 62% of their target water supply curve. I just wanted to remind you that Sonoma Water continues to make releases pursuant to the temporary urgency change petition order that govern flows in the upper and lower watershed. As it was a dry water year, lower than normal flows were approved by the State Water Board to allow them to hold water back and support the release of water in the late fall to support endangered fish species. Next slide, please. So this graphic here is a little different than the one previously. It just sort of shows Lake Mendocino storage in comparison to the most recent drought. So as you can see, Sonoma Water is still seeing storage trends that are higher than some of our worst water years in the recent drought. And that's partially because of the operational changes that were afforded by the forecast informed reservoir operations. Yeah, definitely looking better than some of our worst years of drought, I suppose. Next slide, please. So again, for Lake Sonoma storage, this graphic shows the water supply in comparison to the past 5 years of operation for Lake Sonoma. The reservoir right now sits at about 70% of their target water supply capacity for this time of year, as denoted as by that black line again. Obviously it shows that we're kind of in the beginning of the water year, and that there's plenty of capacity in the water storage pool and opportunities to replenish that as we go into the wetter portion of the year. Next slide, please. So this graph kind of similarly shows where we're at and trending in comparison to the most recent drought. We're coming out of a dry year, obviously, and the water supply is trending above where we were in the height of drought in 2014. But obviously, we've taken some proactive measures this year, and it's allowed us to continue to, cut back on our demands and also leave more water in storage for this year. So, next slide. So I just wanted to kind of highlight some of the things that we've been doing in this dry year for messaging, both as a region and to sort of help our customers save water during the dry year. As you know, we're a member of the Sonoma Marin Water Saving Partnership. They did an extensive campaign this year, it's called the Saving Water Ensures campaign, sort of stressing that, obviously saving water saves water for the things that you love as a Sonoma County resident. And then we're just continuing to coordinate closely with the other water contractors on the dry conditions and checking in regularly, and also preparing for the possibility of additional outreach as needed as we kind of monitor the dry conditions this year. We'll continue to send out new bill messaging. Typically around this time of year, we send out bill messaging to folks, just kind of reminding them to turn off the irrigation, put their plants to sleep for the winter. And then just kind of want to highlight too that there's some changes to our urban water management plan. So this is a year where we have, every 5 years, we update our urban water management plan. It's due in June of 2021 this year, so coming up very quickly. But as a group, through all the contractors, we've been sort of reviewing and updating our water shortage contingency plans as contractors. And obviously we're trying to create a consistent message around what the expected water supply conditions will look like in a drought. There's some new requirements this year. So we'll be looking at a 5-year stress test. In the past, it wasn't required, but that's going to be kind of a new look at how we plan for drought as a region. So that'll be forthcoming, and we'll be happy to kind of introduce that to you slowly over the next few months as we're working through updating the urban water management plan. Next slide, please. And then lastly, I just wanted to kind of highlight some of the things that the water use efficiency team has been working on this year. We did a complete revamp of the Water Smart Yard website. It's much more intuitive. I think it's, we had some customer feedback at a time that it wasn't very user-friendly. So there's some great links to a lot of new content. And as we slowly roll out a lot of things to try to get folks to do more virtually, because we can't go and effectively go out to people's homes like we used to and do some of the water smart checkups, there'll be a lot more links to things. And we think that this will really help to kind of direct customers to where they need to go for rebates and other sort of information as it comes out. And so I just kind of wanted to just to hit upon some of the metrics for the water use efficiency team. This year, so far through October, we've addressed 293 reports of water waste and continuous use. I think I've mentioned to this board in the past that we've been utilizing automatic metering infrastructure in a much more meaningful way. So we have kind of more real-time data that comes out of metering, and it shows, say if somebody has just a leak, it'll show up in our system as just kind of continuously running. So it allows our staff to follow up and kind of notify customers that maybe they have a leak in their house, and then they can be diverted over to the water use efficiency team and help them work through that. We've gotten a lot of positive feedback from that program. So, and then also I just wanted to note that 75 rebates have been issued so far, with about 20,000 square feet of turf replacement and 40 clothes washers rebates being issued. These are large amount of savings associated with those rebates. And then as we've moved to more virtual water smart surveys, we've completed about 186 water smart surveys this year. So in about April, we had to kind of hit the pause button, or actually it was earlier than that, but I guess it was in March, hit the pause button on our in-home surveys. Staff kind of worked through ways to coordinate with customers in their homes virtually, and we just continue to be able to check off and help people save water in their homes. So I guess last slide here. So I'm happy to take any questions at this point, should you have any.
Thank you, Deputy Director Martin. Any board member questions or comments? Board Member Wright?
So my question is on the AMI reading, is that going to be rolled out very soon to folks at home so you can just log on and see your time, your use of your water?
Yeah, and Director Burke may be able to fill in a little bit more, but we're slowly kind of rolling out the remainder of the AMI implementation. And so I think there's a something called SmartWorks, I believe, that's sort of going to be available to customers sometime in the next year, but they're definitely working through that right now.
So yes, just to add on a little bit, great question, Board Member Wright. And so we have roughly about 700 or so meters, actually a little bit less, to install over to AMI, and we are working on the customer dashboard and information, and we are hopeful to be rolling that out early to mid next year. So work is continuing on that, and it will be available before too long. But it's been a great project, and we're excited to being close to the finish line on it.
Okay, one other unrelated question. Is the rubber dam at Waller up or down right now? And are we getting fish counts? What's our migration, do you know?
I think that they did provide a brief update at the last WAC meeting, but I can go back and look at my notes there. Yeah, I don't remember offhand.
I thought they did not put the rubber dam up.
Yeah, as far as fish counts, I'm not sure if they reported out in the last WAC meeting or not on that too. So.
Okay, thank you.
Any other board member questions or comments? Seeing no one, we'll now take public comments on item 5.1. If you wish to make a comment via Zoom, please raise your hand. If you're dialing in via telephone, please dial *9 to raise your hand. Secretary Atha, do we have anyone?
We have no public comment on this item.
Thank you. That will conclude item 5.1. Item 5.2, Director Burke.
Thank you, Chair Galvin and members of the board. Item 5.2 is our Value of Your Water outreach campaign, and Elise Howard, Communications Coordinator, will be making the presentation. Elise, if you're there, you need to unmute and put your video on.
Okay. Hi.
There we go.
Sorry about that. I didn't know I had that much power. Okay. Good afternoon, Chair Galvin and members of the board. I'm really pleased to share with you this brand new educational campaign we're working on. You wait till the PowerPoint comes up.
We're working on it on our end, please.
Okay. All right, here we go. So go to the next slide, please. So we're utilizing animation for this campaign. Next, okay. So the main goal of the Value of Water campaign is to further Santa Rosa Water's relationship, next slide, with our community by bringing awareness to, next, not only the value of water, next, but also the water system and infrastructure that deliver water to homes, businesses, hospitals, and more, next, as well as the work being done to protect our watershed through a targeted educational campaign. Next. The strategy is to strengthen our relationship with our customers by building trust through storytelling. By telling our story, we can help our community gain a better understanding of the value of their water. Next. To accomplish this, we are creating compelling visual content with the help of a local creative team that focuses on different aspects of effectively operating a public water system. Next. With a focus on critical water infrastructure. Next. Public health and safety. Next. And the many talented people working behind the scenes. Next. To provide excellent customer service. Next. In a fiscally responsible manner. Next. The main objective of the campaign, next, is to prioritize reach and frequency within the community to ensure the key educational components are seen by the target audience, our water customers, next. And to monitor engagement via video views, social media reactions, and click-throughs, next. The tactics employed for the first phase of the campaign include creating 3 compelling videos, next. These videos have strong messaging, next, and incorporate beautiful and engaging visuals, next. So to pull this all together, I'd like to play for you the first of 3 animated videos that are being produced to share our story. I'm hoping this will play smoothly, but just in case, here's my disclaimer. There may be some slight delays playing this video through Zoom, so I will also send the link to the board following this meeting. So Gina, if you want to go ahead and hit play. All right. So that was the first video. Two more to come. But this video that was just shared earlier, this video was just shared earlier this month with our customers on Santa Rosa Water's webpage, through our social media accounts, and Santa Rosa City Connections newsletter. This campaign is relying heavily on digital outreach due to constraints associated with COVID-19, but we will also be utilizing more traditional outreach, such as water bill inserts, to share our story with our customers. And then when you get there, Gina, the next slide, perfect, okay. So using our digital communications channels, we will then post all the videos to the City of Santa Rosa's webpage and directly on social media. We will drive traffic to the webpage via additional social media posts, as well as articles in the City Connections newsletter, which currently has over 90,000 subscribers. We're leveraging the video content into bite-sized educational snippets for use on social media, including Santa Rosa Water's Facebook page. And we'll also maintain a steady and consistent posting calendar to ensure maximum reach across all of our channels. So to date, I'm happy to report that we are seeing really good engagement on our channels with this campaign. Next. All of the outreach materials and digital content will be available in both English and Spanish, including bilingual social media posts. Additionally, we will use the campaign to magnify programs already available to our customers, including the Help to Others Water Bill Assistance Program, Water Smart tips, tools, and rebates to help customers save water, as well as our efforts to quickly notify customers of potential leaks at their home or business. We want our customers to know that we are here not only to provide assistance, but to help them save water and money. What I have shared with you so far today focuses on the first of two phases of outreach. From now until February, Santa Rosa Water will focus on connecting with and educating residents about the value of service that they receive and the need to continually reinvest in our public water system. Sorry, next slide, Gina. Santa Rosa Water is a dynamic organization, and this campaign is meant to give our customers a better sense of the depth of the work that goes into maintaining and operating our community's water system, as well as the people working behind the scenes delivering these essential services. Phase 2 of the campaign will focus on water rates. Santa Rosa Water makes no profit, and it's important that our customers know that every dollar is invested into our community's water system. So a little more on phase 2, and I'm also happy to follow up with the board as we get closer to implementation. But starting in March, we will dig into the proposed rates and be sure to highlight the extensive planning and expertise that goes into creating a sustainable rate structure, including the thorough rate analysis and how it compares to other cost increases, such as the Consumer Price Index, as well as the cost reduction strategies we have implemented to prevent the need for additional increases. There's definitely more to come, and I hope you found this informative and that I piqued your interest in following this new campaign online. And I want to thank you for your time, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Elise. I just had one question or comment. In the video, it referenced 54,000 customers, which I'm assuming is the number of accounts that the water department has. I'm wondering if we shouldn't emphasize the total number of people that the water system services, not just the number of accounts.
We can definitely estimate that, and I'm happy to incorporate that into the campaign. Thank you.
Okay, sure. Board questions, comments? Board Member Mullen?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Having worked in water conservation about 30 plus years ago, earlier in my career, it's really quite amazing to see how the campaigns that we thought we were developing way back then were so cutting edge. And now watching this presentation, I can see we were more like the Stone Age. So I just want to commend the staff and the team that has developed the program. It's very engaging, and I can just imagine watching it as it unfolds. It's hard to turn off, and that's really the hook that you want people to get when you're providing such important information as that. So I just wanted to commend you and the staff on it. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Other board member questions or comments? All right, seeing none, we're now taking public comments on item 5.2. If you wish to make a comment via Zoom, please raise your hand. If you're dialing in via telephone, please dial *9 to raise your hand. Secretary Etha, do we have anyone?
I'm seeing no public comments at this time.
Okay, very good. Thank you again, Elise. That was a great presentation. Look forward to the phase 2 as well, because anything we can do to educate our ratepayers on those rates and that we're not profitable or making a profit will I think, be of great benefit. So keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Okay, we will move now to the consent calendar. Item 6.1.
I'll move adoption of the consent calendar.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Vice Chair Arnone, seconded by Board Member Wright. We will now take public comments on item 6. If you wish to make a comment via Zoom, please raise your hand. If you're dialing in via telephone, please dial *9 to raise your hand. Secretary Etha, do we have anyone?
There are no public comments.
May we have a roll call vote, please?
Yes, Chairman Galvin,
Aye.
Vice Chair Arnone,
Aye.
Board Member Badenfort, Board Member Grable,
Aye.
Board Member Mullen,
Aye.
Board Member Watts,
Aye.
Board Member Wright.
Aye.
Very good, thank you. The consent calendar is passed unanimously with one absentee. We will now move to item 7.1. Director Burke.
Thank you, Chair Galvin and members of the board. And I'm very pleased to be bringing this item before you. It's a lot of great work on a very big project by staff. And so item 7.1 is consideration of the November 2020 addendum to the Incremental Recycled Water Program EIR and approval of project work order amendment number 2 for engineering services during construction and professional services agreement for construction management and inspection related to the Laguna Treatment Plant disinfection project. And supervising engineer Mark Casare is here to make the presentation.
Thank you, Director Burke. Good afternoon, Chair Galvin and members of the board. I'm joined by Christine Gaspar, Senior Environmental Planner at GHD and CEQA expert. Today, we will be presenting our environmental analysis for the Laguna Treatment Plant Disinfection Improvements Project, as well as 2 proposed professional service contracts related to the construction phase. So the first contract is a second amendment to our original design project work order, which will provide services during construction. And the second contract is a professional services agreement for construction management and inspection. So today we have 2 separate resolutions before you, and we're asking that the board take first consideration of our environmental documents, and then by separate resolution take action to approve the Laguna Treatment Plant professional service contracts. So this slide is our project presentation outline, rather, and we'll be presenting our history of the project, the status update, and we'll discuss where we're headed for the remainder of the project. Christine will discuss our environmental process, which, as Director Burke mentioned, consists of an addendum to our Incremental Recycled Water Program Environmental Impact Report. I'll be bringing forward the second amendment to our design PWO with Carollo Engineers, as well as a new professional services agreement with SOMAS for construction management and inspection. We will conclude with a number of recommendations to the board. Next slide. So the purpose of this project, or the impetus of the project, is twofold. First, our existing UV system has been derated by the Division of Drinking Water, effectively reducing its treatment capacity. Additionally, our system is about 22 years old and has exceeded its useful service life, so it needs to be replaced. This slide shows a basic diagram of the 2 key components of the project, our UV and our diversion. So the diversion system is for recirculating off-spec or non-compliant water. By our NPDES or waste discharge permit, we're required to meet certain disinfection doses of UV. And if we don't, we consider this off-spec water, and instead of transmitting it through our reclamation system, we have to recirculate it back for retreatment. Currently, this is done by pumping water from across Lano Road from our discharge ponds back to the treatment works for retreatment. And this is both expensive and challenging. And so the new diversion system, which is shown in red, actually will allow for operator flexibility by recirculating non-compliant water on site. Next slide. And as Director Burke was mentioning, this is a large and very exciting project for the city. In fact, it's the largest project we've undertaken since the geysers recharge. It's also the largest UV recycled water installation in the United States, and it's among the largest in the world. And this graph is from Grandview Research. It essentially shows ultraviolet disinfection equipment by global market size through 2027. And the market size last year was valued at about $2.5 billion. And as shown on the chart, it is expected to grow at a compound annual rate of about 20% through 2027. So this is a technology that's clearly demonstrated its efficacy and will really only grow in prevalence in our water and wastewater industry. Santa Rosa was ahead of the curve back in 1998 with our first UV disinfection installation, and we're really continuing this forward thinking with our recommended replacement system. Additionally, our proposed replacement system is substantially more energy efficient. Our existing system consumes about 3 megawatts of electricity at peak, and our new system, our replacement system, consumes about a third of that, or 0.8 megawatts. That's the equivalent of about 1,800 US homes in reduction in electricity. Next slide. And this has also been a really impressive history of thorough analysis and due diligence. And the project really began in 2012 with several pre-design analyses, examining a number of things such as treatment capacity and what our future treatment needs would be. We developed an operation and maintenance plan for interim operation while we designed and build our new system. And we also looked at various treatment alternatives to ultimately support future recommendation for treatment. In 2014, we organized with industry experts in a charrette, or meeting of the minds, to evaluate more alternatives, 19 of them in fact, and comparing them against many parameters, including capital and life cycle costs. We looked at health and safety, regulatory compliance, and operational ease and flexibility. In 2015 and 16, we developed 7 technical memorandums, which served as the basis of design for what would be our recommended UV system. Really, through all of this, the result was a very well vetted and collective solution between the city and consultants that ultimately addressed our disinfection needs. Next slide. And we've come a long way since our project began in 2012. And we are approaching design completion and preparing to enter a 3-year construction period. So the most recent board actions have included approval of the first design project work order amendment. This was last year in August, as well an approval for an updated memorandum of understanding and professional services agreement with Calgon Carbon, our selected UV equipment supplier. We have currently received the 90% design just earlier this week, and it's currently under review. And we've also just received the updated UV equipment design submittal from Calgon Carbon. So we're making incredible progress towards completion of this project. And I'm very happy to report we've remained on schedule since we last reported in 2019 for the first project work order amendment. Next slide. And now Christine Gaspar will provide a brief explanation of our environmental process that we went through the project. And Christine, I just want to let you know you may have to unmute yourself and turn your video on as well.
Thank you, Mark. Is my sound okay?
Oh, it's great.
Okay. Good afternoon, Chair Galvin and members of the board. I'm just going to start with a little bit of context. In 2003, the city certified the excuse me, the Incremental Recycled Water Program, EIR, which covered a broad range of improvements to the city's wastewater and recycled water system. One component of those improvements included an array of upgrades to the Laguna treatment plant. At that time, the upgrades to UV disinfection facilities were envisioned as part of that component and therefore is included in the IRWP program EIR. But the diversion and stormwater facilities were not. Therefore, the CEQA document that you have in your board packet is actually two parts. First, it's an addendum to the IRWP program EIR to add in the diversion and stormwater facilities to the Laguna treatment plant upgrade component of the EIR. And it is also a project-specific checklist analyzing whether the collective project before you today is covered by the IRWP program EIR. Next slide. So the first part is the CEQA addendum, as I mentioned earlier, and this is an addendum to the IRWP EIR. It modifies the project description to include diversion and stormwater facilities. In addition, we took the opportunity to make modifications to some of the measures in the mitigation and monitoring program to update them with current regulations and practices. The environmental analysis of the addendum found that an addendum is the appropriate CEQA document for this project, in that the modifications are considered minor changes to the program, which do not result in any new significant impacts, any more substantially more severe impacts, and don't require any new mitigation measures that weren't previously identified in the program EIR. And then the second part of the CEQA document, which looks at the whole of the project and goes through a checklist process analysis that determines the improvements are indeed within the scope of the IRWP EIR and that it is the appropriate CEQA document to use for your project approval. And I think I turn it back to Mark at this point. Next slide.
Thank you, Christine. So moving on now to the two contracts that we have before you. I wanted to touch base on our original PWO with Corolla Engineers. This began in 2016 through a competitive solicitation where Corolla was selected due to their unparalleled expertise in UV system design. In August of 2019, we executed our first design project work order amendments. And this was to address project delays and scope changes that came about as a result of, first, a value engineering study, and second, the 2017 Tubbs wildfire. Before entering construction, though, we do need to amend our design contract once more. And so this second design amendment that's before the board for consideration will allow the original design engineers to provide engineering services during construction. And I can elaborate on what that actually means in the subsequent slide. We don't want to procure these services really from any other company because our original designers are the experts that know the fine details of our construction documents. So it's standard industry practice for the original design engineers to provide these services. Next slide. And so the engineering design services during construction it allows the design engineer to provide responses and review submittals and RFIs or requests for information. It allows the design engineers to review and respond to change orders and design clarification requests from construction managers and the contractors. It'll also allow the designers to develop record drawings, which is about 200 drawings, and as well provide startup and commissioning services for our UV system, the pump stations, and all the ancillary equipment. It'll also allow our designers to develop an operation and maintenance manual for plant staff. It's important to note that this need was anticipated, and we reported that we anticipated an amendment for this service to the board back in 2019. Next slide. And so this slide shows a task breakdown of the amendment. It provides a task description as well as a fee. And there are about 11 tasks for a total amendment of $2.1 million. If approved, the design contract will be revised to $6.5 million. And this amendment was budgeted for, which we will discuss later, and explain how it's included in the overall delivery costs. And next slide, please. And so this slide just provides a little more context. It kind of illustrates the breakdown of the amendment fee. And so there's really three groups of the scope. The first being shown in blue, it's tasks 1 and 2, providing overall project management and allows for the designer to attend weekly progress meetings. Tasks 3, 4, and 5 are shown in orange, and as the bulk of the scope, it allows the designer to review 250 shop drawings and upwards of 65 resubmittals. It allows the designers to provide responses to approximately 250 requests for information, as well as 50 change orders. So this gives you an idea of how large and complex this project is. And then in gray are tasks 6, 7, and 8, providing for the as-built drawings, startup and commissioning of the new facilities, and development of an operation and maintenance manual. Next slide. Okay, so moving on now to our construction management and inspection contract. We did release an RFP on August 17th for these services, and proposals were evaluated from 1 to 10 based on the criteria shown here. We looked at responsiveness to the RFP, qualifications and demonstrated technical abilities, and references and experience. So qualifications, for example, we look at licensures, years of experience with similar work, and in this case, ultraviolet disinfection and Title 22 regulations. We look at highlighted project experience with the staff proposed on the contract. We closely examine the work plan and the scope of services. That's an important aspect of our reviews. And that really is the bulk of what the consultants propose. They explain how they'll strategize to facilitate construction. They propose how they will allocate resources. They'll discuss their file management and the number of progress meetings and what progress meetings they'll hold, as well as how they'll report overall construction to the owner of the city. Next slide. So this is showing our selection process. This was an incredibly robust process, which included thorough proposal evaluations, review board meetings, interviews, and we also contacted all of their references. So we took this process extremely seriously. We convened a review panel of 5 city staff, consisting of a deputy director, 1 wastewater treatment superintendent, 2 supervising engineers, and 1 civil engineering technician. We received 3 proposals, and 2 firms were shortlisted, and we held interviews for those 2 firms. And ultimately, Somas from Walnut Creek, California, was recommended for selection. They demonstrated the greatest construction management experience related to UV and wastewater treatment plants. They demonstrated greater experience with construction claims process, which is important for large, complex projects such as this. They were also able to commit more of their team's time to our UV project. Additionally, they had relevant projects and better recommendations. They had a more competitive fee as well at about $4.5 million, which we'll break down later. Next slide. And to elaborate a little bit, their core team had 7 relevant wastewater treatment plant projects with UV components, ranging in cost from $15 to $110 million. No other firm was able to demonstrate this kind of experience with ultraviolet disinfection. Their project manager and disinfection lead was able to commit 60 hours per month on this project, with an increasing time commitment in phase 4, which is when we start up our UV system at the latter half of 2023. The construction manager was able to commit nearly full time on this project at 144 hours per month, and anticipates being on site roughly 4 to 5 times per week. So that's a strong commitment. Next slide. And they also had excellent references. And below are just some of the commendations that I heard after reaching out to all 7 rather of the firm's references. Okay, next slide. So this is a table that summarizes the consultant delivery costs. I wanted to present all of the costs that we've seen from the consultants on these core delivery phases or concepts in one place. It shows from left to right the consultant tasks and their fees, as well as what those fees are as a function of construction, or a percent of construction. Then on the far right, I show that what the city budgeted for this prior to these contracts. So the project work order amendment for engineering services during construction is about 2.1 million and represents just 4.5% of anticipated construction costs. And the proposed construction management and inspection contract is 4.5 million and is representing about 9.5% of the construction cost. And CM and inspection typically ranges from about 9 to 12% for a project such as this. So not only is this fee well within the industry standard, but it's also in agreement with our budget, which we're showing here. So in total, our consultant delivery fees are estimated at about $11 million. This is a not to exceed fee, so it's to be determined what we actually spend through the course of the construction project. Next slide, please. And this slide breaks down our total project costs. So we just discussed the consultant side of the delivery, and now we're going to go over the overall project. So beginning with construction, we're estimating $47 million for construction. About 2/3 of that is attributed to the UV system, and about 1/3 is attributed to our off-spec or non-compliant diversion system. We're estimating approximately 35% for total delivery, so that includes both the consultant fees, but also in-house labor, overhead, permitting fees, and regulatory fees, as well as an overall project contingency. And I'm pleased to report that this is the exact same slide that I reported back in 2019. And really the only difference that we've seen today is we have actual contract fees in place that have validated our previous budgetary estimates. Next slide, please. So approval of these 2 contracts has no impact on the budget. Funds have already been appropriated. As Christine was mentioning, and pursuant to CEQA, we drafted an addendum to the Incremental Recycled Water Program, EIR, to account for the additional scope of work under this project. So should the board approve these contracts, we estimate completion of design by spring of next year, and we will enter our 3-year construction period in summer of next year. Next slide, please. So we did receive the 90% submittal, and we are planning to hold our design review workshop on November 30th. We anticipate bringing before the board a recommendation for approval of some sole source items for this contract, related to some electrical and mechanical equipment that is solely used at the Laguna Treatment Plant. And we anticipate award of the construction contract this coming up summer. Next slide, please. And so we've got 4 slides of recommendations, so please bear with. The first 2 slides are recommended by resolution, and this is for consideration of the environmental document. And then the last 2 slides will be by separate resolution as a recommendation to approve the 2 construction-related professional service agreements. So it is recommended by the Transportation and Public Works Department and the Water Department that the Board of Public Utilities, by resolution, consider the November 2020 addendum together with the Incremental Recycled Water Program, EIR, prior to approving the project. We recommend that the board find and determine that the November 2020 addendum to the IRWP program EIR is the appropriate CEQA documentation for these improvements. Next slide. And find and determine that the improvements are within the scope of the IRWP program EIR and that the improvements were also covered in the IRWP program EIR. Further, we recommend to the board to adopt the mitigation monitoring program and direct staff to take those actions as it deems necessary or appropriate to implement the mitigation monitoring program. Lastly, we recommend to the board that they approve the Laguna Treatment Plant Disinfection and Diversion Improvements Project. And next slide, please. And by separate resolution, it is recommended by the Transportation and Public Works Department, the Water Department, and the Contract Review Subcommittee that the Board of Public Utilities by resolution approve Amendment 2 to the project work order under Master Professional Services Agreement with Corollo Engineers to provide professional engineering services during construction for the Laguna Treatment Plant Disinfection Improvements Project in the amount of $1,981,132 and approve a $150,000 contingency for a total amendment of amount of $2,131,132 and a total contract amount not to exceed $6,519,386. Next slide. And then finally, it is recommended to approve a professional services agreement with SOMAS of Walnut Creek, California, to provide construction management and inspection services for the Laguna Treatment Plant Disinfection Improvements Project in the amount of $4,077,950 and approve a $393,796 contingency for a total contract amount not to exceed $4,471,746. And with that, we'd be happy to take any questions you may have. Next slide.
Thank you, Mr. Cazaret. Board member questions, comments? It's a lot to digest.
Yes, it is.
I'll just make one little comment. You know, we see all these millions of dollars. It seems all very expensive, but at the end of the day, we're going to spend $50 million on a very large project. And to get it right, you have to have good oversight with competent people. So I totally support inspection and engineering for this project. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Anyone else? Very well. Let's take, I think, first the resolution with regards to the entitlement documents.
I'll go ahead and make a motion. Oh, go ahead. Somebody else?
I think this is a resolution, so do we need to do public comment first?
I think we'll take a motion to approve the resolution and then open it up for public comment.
Right. I'll move adoption of a resolution of the Board of Public Utilities in the City of Santa Rosa considering the November 2020 addendum to the Incremental Recycled Water Program Certified Program Environmental Impact Report, determining the disinfection and diversion improvements are within the scope of the IRP, EIR, adopting a mitigation monitoring program, making findings and determinations, and approving the Laguna Treatment Plant Disinfection and Diversion improvements, and waive the reading of the text.
I second.
We have a motion by Vice Chair Arnone, seconded by Board Member Grable, to approve the resolution with regards to the documents. I'll now open it up for any public comments on item 7.1, the first portion of it. If you wish to make a comment via Zoom, please raise your hand. If you're dialing in via telephone, please dial *9. Secretary Atha, do we have anyone?
No public comments.
All right, may we have a roll call vote on this resolution, please?
Yes, Chairman Galvin,
Aye.
Vice Chair Arnone,
Aye.
Board Member Grable,
Aye.
Board Member Mullen,
Aye.
Board Member Watts,
Aye.
Board Member Wright.
Aye.
Very good. Passes unanimously. We'll now deal with the second part of the item, which would be a resolution to approve the two professional services agreements, one with Carollo and one with Somas. I'll take a motion.
I'll go ahead and move adoption of a resolution of the Board of Public Utilities approving project work order amendment number 2 for engineering services during construction and professional services agreement for construction management and inspection services related to the Laguna Treatment Plant disinfection improvement project, and waive reading of the text.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Vice Chair Arnone, seconded by Board Member Watts, to approve the resolution regarding the two professional services agreements. At this time, I'll open it up for public comments with regards to this resolution. If you wish to make a comment via Zoom, please raise your hand. If you're dialing in via telephone, please dial *9 to raise your hand. Secretary Atha, anyone?
There are no public comments.
Thank you. May we have a roll call vote, please?
Yes, Chairman Galvin,
Aye.
Vice Chair Arnone,
Aye.
Board Member Grable,
Aye.
Board Member Mullen,
Aye.
Board Member Watts,
Aye.
Board Member Wright.
Aye.
Great, that passes unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Cazaret and Ms. Kaspar. We appreciate the presentation. This is it's exciting to see this project moving, and the numbers not going up, that stand consistent with what we've been told over the last year or two. And it'll be great to see this thing get off the ground next summer. So nice job.
Thank you so much, board members.
We'll now move to item 8, which is public comments on non-agenda items. If you wish to make a comment via Zoom, please raise your hand. If you're dialing in via telephone, please dial *9 to raise your hand. Secretary Atha, do we have any public comments?
We have no public comments.
Very good. That'll take care of item 8. We have no referrals. We have one written communication. Director Burke, did you want to make any comments regarding the communication?
Thank you, Chair Galvin. We directed staff to go ahead and respond to Ms. Taylor's letter, providing her with answers to her questions. And so that has been sent. I know earlier today, Ms. Taylor also sent a letter with some additional questions, and we will respond to that as well.
Great. Any board member questions or comments regarding the written communication? Board member
I just
Mullen?
like to, one comment is that the it seems like the whole public participation item is in flux, and it's going to change as the project moves and where people park and all that thing. So I'm sure our staff is going to work very diligently with the neighborhood to do everything in their power to make things go as smooth as possible.
Thank you. Board member Mullen?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I also want to commend the staff. I thought their response was really quite good and pointed to all the issues that were raised. One thing I did note when it was the copy that we got, that it was distributed, of course, to the entire Board of Public Utilities, but it was only distributed to one council member. And the reason I raised this is a project that's projected to last about 2 years. And so I'm sure we haven't heard the last of this, because issues with projects of this magnitude come up, on a regular basis, and I'm sure we're ready to respond with that. However, I think we should loop in the town council or city council, because somebody may jump right ahead of us and go right to the city council and ask for some kind of relief or response from them. So I just would encourage us to loop in the entire city council when we start to hear on a project of this magnitude, so that they can be aware not just of the issues that the neighbors are raising, but also our response.
Very good. I would ask then that Director Burke see that the remaining members of the City Council receive copies of all the correspondence regarding this matter.
Thank you. We'll follow up on that.
Thank you. Any other board member questions or comments? We'll now take public comments on item 10.1. If you wish to make a comment via Zoom, please raise your hand. If you're dialing in via telephone, please dial *9 to raise your hand. Secretary Atha, do we have anyone?
There are no public comments.
We'll conclude item 10.1. Any subcommittee reports? Hearing none. Any board member reports? Hearing none. Director's report.
Thank you, Chair Galvin and members of the board. I will be brief, as I know we have a number of items still to go on this agenda. One thing I wanted to remind the board members is that we have 4 current board member positions that will be coming to the end of their term, and the end of this year, basically. I think it'll carry over for another month. So if any of you are interested in continuing your service, we just wanted to remind you to please fill out your application. All the applications will be distributed to council members for review in mid-December. And then per council policy, the council members are should be announcing appointments and reappointments no later than the 2nd meeting in January. And then the appointments shall take effect on February 1st, and then we would swear new board members in at the first meeting after the appointments are made and official. So if there's any interest, not only for current board members, but those in the public, you can go to www.srcity.org/boards. Again, that's www.srcity.org/boards to apply, and in particular, if you're interested in water, you would apply for the Board of Public Utilities. So that's my first item. And then second, I just wanted to let the board know, I sent you an email last week to both the board and the council. We had some really good news. There was very strong interest in our bond sale. And so we have secured both the 2020A and 2020B bond series. The final closing will take place early next month, but we were able to secure the 2020A series with a premium of $18 million, which allowed us to secure the full project funding for $52.3 million. And the 2020B refunding, we were providing our ratepayers with a 19.2 savings on that debt. It's a net present value savings of $9.7 million. So really good news, really great timing to be in the market. I also really just wanted to thank the team that worked on this. We started in August and gave them a very daunting task to get this done by the end of October, and they succeeded. And we were able to get this financing at a really great benefit to our ratepayers. So also want to just thank the board and the council both for your leadership in getting this bond sale completed. And that is my report, and I'm happy to take any questions.
That's great news, and I think our ratepayers are going to be pleasantly surprised when they see the annual savings that's been accomplished. Any other board member questions or comments from the director? All right, we will open it up to public comments on item number 13. If you wish to comment via Zoom, please raise your hand. If you're dialing in via telephone, please dial *9 to raise your hand. Secretary Atha, do we have anyone?
There are no public comments on this item.
Thank you. We'll now move to item number 14. I'll ask Mr. Mado to please announce our closed session.
Chair Galvin, members of the board, we have 3 closed sessions for the board this afternoon. The first one concerns significant exposure to litigation pursuant to Government Code 54956.9 subsection 2, and Chief Assistant City Attorney Jeff Burke will lead the discussion on this matter.
Do you want to announce all three of them before we go into closed session?
Of course, Chair Galvin, excuse me, I should have anticipated that. The second item is a matter concerning anticipated litigation related to claims filed by Terracon in connection with contract C02081, and the balance of the contract identifier is on your agenda. This is a closed session that is permitted pursuant to Government Code 54956.9 sub paragraph 2D because of a significant exposure to litigation being commenced against the city. And the discussion of this matter will be led by Assistant City Attorney Rob Jackson. And finally, there is a real property matter where the board will be asked in closed session to meet with the agency's negotiator to provide instructions, and that concerns property at 4301 Milano Road and 1595 Meadow Lane in Santa Rosa, and a portion of 2 assessor's parcel numbers that are identified on your agenda. Closed session for this type of matter is permitted under Government Code 54956.8, and the negotiator for the city is Jill Scott, the city's real property negotiator, who will lead that discussion. And those are your 3 closed session items. There will be various people who will be joining the closed session via Zoom because of their participation in individual items from the 3 I just listed.
Thank you very much. Before we go into closed session, we'll take public comments on items 14.1, 14.2, and 14.3. If you wish to make a comment via Zoom, please raise your hand. If you're dialing in via telephone, please dial *9 to raise your hand. Secretary Etha, do we have anyone?
There are no hands raised.
Great. Okay, then we are going to adjourn to closed session. I'll ask each of you to please disconnect and then reconnect via the Zoom closed session information that you have, and we will see you all in closed session. Roberta, we should all be logging back on.
Thank you, Dan. We're ready for you whenever you are.
I can't see anybody else yet, so I don't know who's logged on.
Bob Adams here.
There we go.
Matt's here.
2, 3, 4, 5. I think we have everyone. So, Secretary Atha, if you could do a roll call, please.
Yes. Chairman Galvin,
Here.
Vice Chair Arnone,
Here.
Board Member Grable,
Here.
Board Member Mullen,
Here.
Board Member Watts,
Here.
Board Member Wright.
Here.
All right. Thank you all for logging back on. At this point, I'll ask Mr. Maddow to report out on our closed session.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There were no reportable items from today's closed session.
Very good. I think that concludes the meeting. We'll adjourn. I wish you all a happy Thanksgiving and be safe, stay positive, and test negative, right?
Well said.
All right.
Happy birthday.
Yes.
Yeah.
Happy birthday, Dan. Happy birthday,
Thanks,
Dan.
Chris. All right. We're adjourned.